Hey, everybody, just in case you weren't aware, because we didn't have a title card up, because that's just the kind of night that I'm having. My name is Russell Frost. I am the host for this evening's episode of The Tesla Life, episode number 11 for June 21st, 2017. I'm really, do I need like some, what is that stuff the kids take, the Ritalin or something? Do I need the marijuana? Is it the heroin? I don't know. I need something. No, what I need are two awesome people to do the show with. So let's introduce them. Next to me, hopefully holding up his end of the deal, because God knows I'm going to drop it. Mark Coughlin.
Well, you don't have to hope for them. They're both here, so you're safe. And it is episode 11, so we're well into the double digits.
I know. I would have thought. They all said it would never.
They never said it would get past 9.5, but it did. So there we go.
Did they really say that? Those bastards. I hate when they say that. And speaking of hating when I'm not. It's a man near and dear to my heart who's also going to prop me up, since I am definitely on my last intellectual legs tonight, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
So at 11 episodes, do you get compared to a syndicated sitcom or a rash that won't go away?
What's the difference?
Yeah, there is that. Yes,
I don't know. I've been getting into discussions all day about Damon Lindelof and The Watchmen. So,
wow.
Yeah. And I happen to be a big Damon Lindelof hater. So, David Lindelof fans, sorry.
Screw you.
Screw you, because God, I can't stand anything that he's ever done. But
and the theater empties.
Yeah, but I am looking forward. I saw the trailers to Game of Thrones today, and I'm very excited about that. Looks like a lot of people are going to die.
Well, that's probably a given. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like making predictions that come true. So I'm going to. Yeah.
Is it just like every episode?
That's an excellent point as to whether or not Game of Thrones has a death count on the web somewhere, where you can say season 1, 300 million.
There is a death count. I don't remember what it is, because I've actually watched some of the video and then I just kind of fell asleep because damn, everybody dies.
So I don't watch Game of Thrones, but so am I to assume that every episode there's like at least one person in a red shirt? Is that how it works? Because I mean, in Star Trek, that's how you knew who was going to die.
No, it's so far beyond that. Because imagine Star Trek like randomly assigned red shirts to 40% of the cast, and by that I mean, in episode 5, Kirk dies. Okay, that's Game of Thrones.
That means nothing to me. I've never seen it.
You've never seen Game of Thrones?
I've never seen Game of Thrones.
Wow. This is ostensibly a Tesla show, and here we're talking about dragons and, fantasy things, but there it is. So maybe we should talk about the news.
Maybe we should. So let's start there. I want to start with a story that was first reported on Electrek, and Chief Technology Officer J.B. Straubel of Tesla says that they are actively talking to other automakers about opening up the supercharger network. Well,
wow. Now, before I turn this over for group discussion and debate, our own Patrick Connor, back on May 1st, on his Cars Without Cords site. That's Cars Without Cars with.
There's a difference.
A ringing endorsement.
We should have just taken this week off. Carswithcords.net. Patrick, I don't want to say predicted it, but talks about how much sense it makes if, of course, Tesla would open up their supercharger network. So cheers to Patrick. May 1st, he called it. I don't know if he was the only one, but he's our Patrick, so, we're going to stick up for him.
Now, there has been a few discussions about this in the past as well. Elon had spoken about possibly opening it up in the past, but talks went nowhere. But apparently, JB has leaked that there's new discussions afoot. So it would be interesting to see what actual car manufacturers are in the discussion. I don't know if that'll ever be revealed. Unless a deal happens, but it would be interesting to know.
I suspect we'll never hear about negotiations until someone either accepts or rejects the thing. I mean, it makes sense if you're a company that's going to deploy a bunch of electric vehicles and wants that as a selling point. And it certainly is a selling point. There's no question about the idea that that one of the really smart things Elon Musk did was build a supercharger network the same time he was building cars. I don't. We can argue about the location and the numbers of the chargers, but that they're there and that it's an important thing for electric car owners. There's no question about it.
It is definitely one of the crown jewels of the Tesla empire, is to have those chargers available to their clients, their car owners, at any point, 24/7, controlled by the company. It's a huge plus.
Absolutely. Now, the first time somebody in a $120,000 Model S pulls up to a supercharger and there's a Chevy Bolt plugged in, there's going to be hell to pay.
Right. Or the fact that in some locations the superchargers have been somewhat packed, and there are some waiting queues, especially on the West Coast, where the Los Angeles area I'm thinking of specifically, where there are some queues waiting to get a charge, and adding to those queues might be a problem for the current clientele.
Look how patiently those Tesla owners are waiting.
Patiently, I'm sure.
You can see the patience.
Mm-hmm.
They're just staring at the pine trees, communing with nature. You know, I mean, obviously what this means to Tesla is money, because he's not going to work a deal without money. And, you know, if somebody came in and said, yeah, we want our vehicles to be able to access your network, that's going to be money. And Elon can plow that right back into keep, you know, continuing the expansion of the supercharger network. And it'll always be called the supercharger network. It'll always be his. Mm-hmm. Even if Chevy and Toyota and whoever else bellies up to the bar, it'll always be his.
Yes, most likely. It would never change the name. Even if they were to change the name, people would keep the old name as they describe it.
Right. Yeah. All of a sudden, it's the PNC Bank Supercharger Network. Right? Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that? Naming them like arenas, every different one has a different sponsor.
Yeah, that sucked. Boy, right. Where are you? I'm at the In-N-Out Supercharger.
Right.
That's the one I want to go to, is actually the In-N-Out Supercharger. So, obviously, and in a sense too, this could be a very good thing for these other companies, whether it was BMW or Chevy or whoever, to be able to say, hey, there's an existing network of these chargers that are built X distance apart, and you can get from one end of the country to the other. Look at all the cars that have done it. Using this charging network. It's there. It's not anything as, it's one thing to say there are 1 million charge point stations and they're all over the place, but Supercharger's like a brand that people get,
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what would be great is, again, so a little bit more, hopefully that comes with this standardization, so that you've got the same type of plugs going into another car maker, which would be nice to have some standardization.
That's the really fascinating part of this. So does that mean that these other companies would change over, or are they just going to have adapters?
Or could it just be one of those companies that hasn't done it yet, like our friends at Dieselgate? Could it be somebody that's just coming into the market and really hasn't established themselves that much?
I think they're building their own supercharger network.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's real smart.
Under penalty of law, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. By the force of law, I think they're building their own supercharger network. Of course, it will be called that. It will be called the Benevolent German Electrification System or something.
Yes. What's German for supercharger? It'll be the Uber charger network.
Yeah. Don't say Uber. Don't say Uber.
Right. Yeah. I didn't hear it in my head, but I heard it when it came out. Yeah.
You know, right? Like all of a sudden, these things. Well, let's talk about another source of energy. Let's go to Mark for this story.
Yes, just recently, as in last Monday or Sunday, a story was released, in this case on Electric, concerning the battery production starting, the ramp up for the Gigafactory 1 for the Model 3. So as of Sunday, I believe it was confirmed that the production has started. And they're now starting to pack these battery packs, run them through the machinery, and getting what quantities I have no idea, but a lot of batteries are going to have to be produced. And it has begun. As we know, we're only about T-minus 5 weeks away from the official launch that we hear is at the end of July for the Model 3. And another story coming up, we've got some more detail as to why they need a lot of these batteries now. So that's coming up in another story.
We'll get to that in a moment.
So what I don't really get, I mean, maybe this is just me, but the guy's holding the battery in his hand, and it's just about the size of a finger. I mean, and they talk about how much space the battery takes up. I mean, if that's the battery, you would think that most of the car would just be trunk. I mean, it's just hollow, right? I mean, you just is that one of those spots where you just plug it in like a AA battery?
Is Tony's mic working? Have we been hacked by Russian hackers? Is that?
Are they trying to dissuade the election?
Yeah, that's it. I know, right? You would think if you could put all that in that battery, why don't they just use 2 and get twice as much?
Exactly. That's my point right there. Yeah. Right.
It's probably due to the fact that this one battery is one of 7,385.
Yeah. Am I the only one here that wants one of those batteries? Even though I have absolutely no use for it?
Oh yeah, yeah, just have it sitting on the bookshelf.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Right.
Oh, so I'm not. Okay, cool.
No, yeah.
Cool, because
We're just waiting for that Tesla Gigafactory tour, Russell, and we'll grab one.
I'm sure they won't notice.
They won't notice. That they're whizzing by. They're not even counting them. I'm sure.
Billions of batteries. There's Lucy and Ethel at the end. Of the
I'm sure some of them are dumping onto the ground. They don't even know.
Right.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. Nothing wrong with keeping a lithium-ion battery in your pocket either. You
Right.
know, if it shorts out, nothing bad will happen.
No,
I think
nothing.
out in the front where they have their Tesla store, they have just a barrel of the mistakes. Like
secondhand lithium batteries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like in a candy store where you get the defects.
These are the
Right.
seconds. Yes.
Go ahead, dip your hand in there and have a
Dip your hand
battery.
in, yeah. Whatever you can pull out, it's $5.
Exactly.
And it's lithium, right? So lithium floats. So maybe they have a kids game like bobbing for battery.
Yeah, that's gonna work. Yeah, these short-circuited batteries. The first kid puts his head in and gets electrified.
Of course, they're fully
Zapped.
charged, right? They're fully charged batteries in a bucket of water.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. Nothing. It's perfect. Ay. Did we actually just? No, we're not going to do 5 minutes on kids bobbing.
Right. I do want to look back.
But that
though.
is the show title. It's Bobbing for
batteries.
Batteries.
Bobbing for batteries. Write that down.
I'm writing it down.
Write it down. Yep.
Number 11, bobbing for batteries. I like that. That's a good one.
Also, I want to let you know at the end of season. I think this was season 5, and they only went to.
Oh, it is the death count.
So we have 704 deaths from Game of Thrones and 1,216 deaths in The Walking Dead. Now, The Walking Dead makes up for it in the number of non-humans.
Non-humans, yes.
Yeah, that have been killed.
Yeah.
I do want to say that, Tony, I just want to add that I saw a graph similar to this for House of Cards. House of Cards actually wins. There was over 10,000 deaths.
This actually breaks it down to like background character deaths, you know?
Wow, the House of Cards joke just went dead. Am I the only one here that watches House of Cards?
Maybe.
I did, but I was slow on the uptake.
Wow. Walking Dead. Yeah, it doesn't really, you know what? You can't kill a dead person. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's like double jeopardy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can demobilize them. I don't know what the word is. I'm not good with zombies.
Okay, on to the next story.
On to the next thing. We keep going down these TV rat holes. I know. Speaking of interesting sort of developments and people dying, or at least shuffling off this mortal coil, Chris Latner made a big splash at Tesla 5 months ago when he joined the engineering team there. There was a lot of talk about where he's been, the things that he's done. He's certainly achieved a lot. He was with Apple and apparently connected to their quote unquote car program.
The Apple car.
The Apple car, the Apple software. We're not really sure who it is.
Well, yeah, he did invent Swift. I mean, he signed up with Apple like 11 years ago with, he had created his own compiler and light programming language, and then invented Swift when he was at Apple.
Wow. And then he tweets this out yesterday. Turns out that Tesla isn't a good fit for me after all. I'm interested to hear about interesting roles for a seasoned engineering leader.
Turns out. He starts a tweet with "turns out it wasn't a good fit."
Mm-hmm.
The only interesting thing, the only thing I have to add to this really is that there's a lot of people that have been at Tesla and have come away with this attitude. Right or wrong, this is not an uncommon, like, I'm not a good fit for those guys.
Yeah.
People departing Tesla. And I think, so maybe they lost a handful of people. Whatever the number is, I'm not saying it's a doom and gloom or anything like that for Tesla, not by any means. But I do wonder if there aren't some corporate cultural issues there that maybe Tesla needs to address.
Well, they are a Silicon Valley type company. And with those type of companies, as Apple, as others, there certainly have been growing pains as they've gone through growth spurts. So yeah, I'm sure there is some of that there. I'm sure there's people that feel that they're getting burnt out. I'm sure that type of thing happens all the time. But there are pockets of this all over the place. And as the company grows in great leaps and bounds, it's tough to keep everyone up to speed with the corporate culture of that time.
I want to ask you guys if you feel or believe that Elon Musk is running Tesla harder or not as hard as Steve Jobs and Bill Gates ran Apple and Microsoft in the early years. Because there's a lot of stories that came out of there. A lot of stories.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder when hold on, Russell, just a second. When, you were right. You're exactly right. When you heard, we hear a lot of these things. And sometimes it's not just, from Tesla or whatever. It's, this really promising high-tech person takes a position and then, 6 months or a year later, they're gone. And it makes me wonder if, even if the environment is, let's say, identical, these people are saying, well, there's other opportunities. I don't have to stay here. So I'm just going to leave. But back in the day, in the early 80s, you had, the Apple founding core and the Microsoft, founding core, and they were in it to do something. I mean, they knew the work was hard. They were sleeping under their desks and, going a week without, showering and they were in it and they were working, really long hours and they were pouring their heart into it. Makes me wonder if perhaps that same mentality and drive even exists these days. If people jump in because they think it's going to be the next big thing, and when it turns out to not be all rainbows and candy canes, they're just like, screw this, I'm out of here. I'm going to find something else. Silence.
Who's going to jump in, Mark? Me or you?
I think that there are many different opportunities now, like you said, that didn't exist before. And people that are involved with this to this level, you're right. They do weigh things out for themselves. Does this make more sense for me to stay, or does it make more sense for me to pick up and go someplace else where I feel I can get ahead quicker or get to the goals that I'm after at that point? But in the early days of the computer revolution, there were basically two games in town, and this type of wealth build that we had seen through Silicon Valley didn't exist, but now people are aware of it, and people are out to get what they can for themselves. And right or wrong, that is something that that is well documented and people know how to do.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I'm going to say here is that it's oftentimes, and this doesn't rebut or refute anything that either Mark or Tony said, but oftentimes we look for reasons about the person leaving a company to explain why, maybe they just weren't tough enough. Maybe they didn't have the skills. Maybe something else was wrong. Who knows what? And sometimes it might just be a bad fit, as innocuous as that sounds. And sometimes it might be someone who has options professionally, leaving a company that just they don't feel is their style for whatever reason. Uber, we've talked a lot about Uber on What Drives Us. And, there's no doubt that there's some really serious things. And I'm not equating Uber with Tesla by any means, but there's a lot of problems there. And could there be problems? I mean, we've certainly heard rumblings of the way Tesla deals with people isn't always the best way. Whether it's, killing that parking lot Instagram account, dealing with other people, in their service centers, or in, of course, the corporate hierarchy. I mean, for a long time, Tesla went through a lot of people very quickly. And again, Mark, I don't remember if Mark or Tony said that. I mean, that's growing pains too. A company that's growing and is as fast as Tesla and has as much attention focused on them as Tesla, that's a tough environment by any measure. So, no. That's all I have to say on that.
Absolutely.
So I guess I should say that speaking of Tesla, oh wait, this is a show about Tesla. So that's a really crappy segue. Mark has another story.
This is the basically part 2 to the battery story and the ramp up at the Gigafactory. There's been an insider that has reported recently that Tesla is going to shock Wall Street coming at the end of July with the launch of the Model 3. Their claim is that they are going to have thousands of Model 3s ready to be delivered. So we have got a number of cars that are going to be stockpiled, built, ready to go, in the small amount of flavors that we know exist. There's less options for these cars. They are going to stockpile, apparently, a number of these cars and have them ready for launch, so that the first ceremony, when they give out a few, maybe on stage, there will be a few thousand given out shortly after.
Do you think that when they do the reveal, do you think Oprah is going to run out on stage?
You get a car, and you get a car. I doubt it.
Oh, damn it! I'm so looking forward to that.
But and this is certainly a way to get Wall Street's attention, is to, in their eyes, outperform. So if this is the case and this insider is correct, there's going to be some, I would believe, some measure of being able to verify this based on, you can't really hide thousands of cars anywhere. You've got to start stockpiling them, so they're going to be typically visible in outside parking lots, even if it is at the Tesla factory or someplace else. There should be quite a visible sign that there's a stockpile of Model 3s as we approach the end of July.
So several thousand. If they make, what? Yeah, 500 a day. I'm being conservative to ramp up.
Well, several thousand could be, anything above 2,000, really, right?
Right. Okay. So it could be a week.
Could be a couple
production.
thousand. It could be 5,000. And the insider didn't really get into anything beyond several thousand.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they could be manufacturing these starting the middle of the month, and then have a couple or a few thousand ready by the end of July.
Yeah. So again, that's more excitement building for the 5-week launch.
And would this be? I'm skimming. Would this be at the Gigafactory? Where would these?
No,
be
not the
manufactured?
Gigafactory. This would be Fremont that the cars are made, because that's where the equipment to make the Model 3s exists.
So yeah, that's a good point. So where do you put several thousand in Fremont?
Well,
And they complain now that the Fremont factory is somewhat filled with
Right.
machinery, with contractors, with things that are going on.
engineering
So
staff, employees.
normally-
vehicles.
normally you would think, okay, they could just store them in a cavernous factory, but it's not cavernous anymore. The space is being used up, and possibly very little of it of empty space remains.
Well, and let's keep in mind too, they don't have dealers they can ship them to that have
Nope.
lots.
Mm-hmm.
So
So these cars have to go somewhere, and I would think that the couple of photographers that are circling Fremont at all times may see hundreds of car carriers leaving with Model 3s.
it's
So-
gonna be- go ahead.
So where does somebody store several thousand cars? Where does somebody with a boring machine hide several thousand cars?
Oh,
You are talking James Bond villain.
Oh, yes, I am.
a Tesla pops out of a hole in every major city in the country.
Yes.
They come-
You're gonna see
Yes.
a huge rock is gonna split in half and open up, and these cars are just gonna come driving right out.
The mayor of Fremont is shocked as expressways start collapsing into the ground.
Oh God, that's horrible. Well, it's interesting. I was just at the local Tampa Tesla Sales and Service Center, and it's a small building in a light industrial park with absolutely no additional parking. There's no lot there, like maybe 6 cars. Okay, maybe. So there's no like they can't even just, we're going to ship 30 to Tampa and they're going to sit. They'd have to rent someplace.
Yeah, and keep in mind, these early cars are going to people that are employed by Tesla to start with. And then after that, it will be current Tesla owners that are in the West Coast area. That's where they're going to start. So they will not ship them across the country regardless to begin with. It's going to be just locally around Fremont and the Bay Area, most likely.
Yeah, they might be just dropping them off at mailing addresses.
Yes,
Showing up
exactly.
in front of your house and saying,
Exactly,
"Here's the key to your
yeah.
car."
Yeah,
Take the damn thing already.
Yeah, yeah.
the truck just leaves and drops off a Tesla at every
Right.
employee's house.
I mean, nobody's going to be sad about that, but I mean, and obviously we're being silly, people are going to have to order them. They're going to know when it's coming. They're going to have an idea. But the thing is just that Tesla, being the atypical auto company, they don't have enormous storage lots outside of their factories like a lot of the other car companies do. They don't have enormous storage lots at ports as these cars come in from production overseas.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
they have picked up extra warehouse space in Fremont and outside of it. There is some warehouse space that they have leased within the past 2 years, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe, but again, the people that are the paparazzi, as we're calling them, they're going to catch on to this real quick. You're not going to be able to ship out a number of cars, and it's like it's going to be a parade of paparazzi following the truck as to where it's going. Like it's going to be the cat is going to be out of the bag quite quickly as soon as the first truck leaves.
Yeah, and I honestly believe, I think it would, and I think it would be awesome if Toyota Tesla, goes with a T.
What?
Ends with an A. Sorry, wrong podcast.
Wow.
I think it would be awesome if Tesla did deliver to homes, or at least gave that option, because you can track your Domino's pizza at this point. And let's face it, this is Tesla. And if you are a recipient of a Model 3, you will make sure you're home when that car shows up.
Oh, sure.
You know, so I think people will get a thing that says, here is when your car is scheduled to be delivered. You can reschedule whenever you want, but this is when the truck is scheduled to swing by. Can you be home? And it'll be as simple as pushing a button that says, I confirm that I will be there. Truck comes by, drops off a car, takes maybe 10, 15 minutes, off it goes, and you have a car.
I suspect the delivery process is a little more involved. If only Evan Pusko was here to tell us what it's like, since he's taken delivery twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he would tell us it's a little more involved, but
I think, yeah, money
interesting,
might have to.
you know, like you could go to the far end of the spectrum and say, well, once they have autonomous abilities, the car will leave the factory on its own and show up in your driveway.
Right.
Idea. Go, boy, go. Go home. Yeah. I love that. That's wonderful. Pat on the back.
In Soviet Russia, car drives you.
Yeah. Exactly. Nah, you know, I mean, obviously no one on the Model 3 waiting list is going to be sad if their car shows up.
Nope.
You know what I mean? And it's not just going to show up. They're going to know it. But, you know.
But with this stockpiling story, though, they are going to make these different option cars in the different colors that will be sitting somewhere. And when you go to order it, it can say, we're not just building the car right now. We're done. You can come pick it up now.
Right. For the love of God, please come get it.
Right.
It's double parked on Wilshire. Go get it.
We estimate you have 3 hours to get your car before it's towed.
Incurring large storage fees and potential body damage.
I'd love to see it. I hope it's true. That would be just phenomenal if Elon could wrap up his, reveal an announcement at the end of July by saying, oh, and by the way, here's a football field full of cars.
Yeah. So
somewhere
more to look forward to.
Somewhere there will be a football field full of cars,
yeah.
At least temporarily. But I'm excited. I cannot wait for the first. Not that I have anything against the employees, but for the first owners to be talking about getting these cars and what their impressions are like. And of course, to see more of it. Elon's played a real teaser game. I'm not really sure why. At this point, the orders are there for the next. Can we say that they're going to be making cars for the next year just to cover the orders they already have?
Easily.
Yeah.
So really, the idea of teasing it at this point, the guy should have made an IMAX film about it. And just
I already have.
Here it is.
I have a thought on that subject. Is that he doesn't want to sell any more of these cars. He has sold so many pre-sold that he knows he's going to be making cars for a year just to fulfill the orders, if not longer. And he's trying to sell some more S's and X's. And he doesn't want it to have any more publicity than it's gotten, because he doesn't want anyone more to get at the end of the line and make the build even longer. I think he's truly kind of anti-selling.
That's an interesting. We talk about constrained supply and all of that and whatnot from the manufacturer's end of it. The idea that Elon wants. Obviously he wants people to buy S's and X's. He's making those already. It's a higher dollar car. There's probably more margin in it, but this is, again, to swim in more cliches. This is the bread and butter vehicle. This is the mainstream vehicle. This is the one that makes Tesla a real car company if they can produce it in the big numbers that they hope to.
Yeah.
So, if he's not enthusiastic about this, maybe he needs to spend some time.
There are reasons not to be completely enthusiastic. Yes, you want to get it started. You want to get the ball rolling, but you also want to start rolling those economies of scale to make the car even cheaper as time goes along. Because the car they produce this year, you can bet that next year the components and parts are going to be lower for the next round. So
absolutely,
if he can hold off some of that pent-up desire for another year, every one of those cars become more of a profit margin for him.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see. Sure.
But at the same time, I don't of the 400,000 or 500,000 or whatever it is now on the waiting list. Do you guys know the demographics as to how many of them are in the United States? How many of them are in other countries?
I think that in the U.S., it's a percentage of the total was something like, isn't it 75%?
I have no idea. I have not seen any numbers, but I would guess it would have to be at least that high.
Because, of course, I bring it up because, there's 170 some odd countries in this obscure Paris Climate Accord thing that are pushing for green tech. And, we hear about, it's like Sweden and Denmark, doing really well toward that goal. We know that India, China are really looking at electrification of transportation, and just, European countries in general. So, we look at
those guys know, though, the other countries know that they're at the very back of the line. They know that based on the rollout that's been outlined, that whoever orders from those other countries, and certainly a number of them have with the Model 3 tracker diagnostics or information that we had seen previously, there are a number of different countries involved, but certainly the vast bulk at this point with the people that signed up to that third-party website certainly were U.S. residents.
Yeah. So, that means they'll be building, the Model S 3. Sorry, they'll be, to cover the current orders, and then be taking orders and, distributing to other countries. And then by that time, the second Gigafactory will be under construction, and on and on and on.
Yep. That's the plan.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Russell, we've beat this one to death.
I think we have. I'm kind of lost in the. And again, it's fun to speculate, but once these things start rolling out, we'll have a lot more to talk about, and we'll know a lot more. So, rather than keep rambling, let's just say goodnight, gentlemen. Tony, anyone you'd like to say goodbye to this week?
Not necessarily. No,
No shout outs, nothing.
No shout outs. Still shouting out to Elon. Waiting.
Follow me on Twitter.
Send me a car.
Send me a car. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Well, Mark, I bet you have something.
Yes, if you want to learn more about what we're doing and seeing and reading, please subscribe to our Twitter feed at The Tesla Life. As we approach 1,000, we're just under 1,000 now. So help push us over to the top and make it over 1,000. And also, if you would like to get notified about this podcast as it happens, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe and click the box that you would like to be notified when the show happens.
Just search for the Tesla Life Show, and you'll see our familiar red logo.
And you can just click that, and immediately when the show starts, you'll be notified right to your mobile device or whatever you're using to watch the show now.
Those idiots are on TV again. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't mean that.
No, that's C-SPAN.
No, I would. C-SPAN's.
Don't go there.
Of course, there's Facebook too, and you can follow us at facebook.com/The Tesla Life. Number one. Numeral 1. The Tesla Life 1. So that's facebook.com/The Tesla Life 1. Mark, Tony, thanks. Nice
Tony,
job,
what free food did you get this week on your end?
Yeah.
I'm still waiting. Yeah, I know. I'm still waiting.
You're waiting for the food?
I'm waiting for the free food. I assumed that this was a catered event.
Oh, dude.
Bad assumption. Bad assumption. There's no free grub here, my friend. Not a thing. You may get a free Model S, but
no,
probably not. Probably.
Yeah, just add that disclaimer at the end. Probably not.
Yeah.
You may get a free Model S, but probably not. Odds are astronomical. Well, thanks guys for another great episode, and thanks to all of you for watching and or listening. to episode 11 of the Tesla Life. We'll see you next week, and you can find out what's new and exciting in the Tesla Life. Up. See ya.